My beloved, before the ache had a name, I saw it. Before the lie took root, I was already reaching for you. You do not remember the exact moment it started, do you? It came quietly, like a shadow slipping beneath your door, uninvited, unannounced. One moment, you were simply existing. The next, you were questioning if your existence was too much. You weren't born carrying shame. It was handed to you by voices that didn't know how to hold your tenderness, by people broken by their own stories. Projecting their pain into yours, they said things in passing, or said nothing at all when you needed presence. And slowly, you began to bend, not in freedom, but in fear. I saw it happen when you started apologizing for laughing too loud, for crying too long, for dreaming too big, when you tried to take up less space, not because you were humble, but because you were hurting. You mistook silence for wisdom, numbness for maturity. But I was never asking you to disappear in order to be loved. You built masks, not out of vanity, but out of survival. You thought, maybe if I am useful enough, quiet enough, put together enough, they will stay. And when they didn't stay, you blamed yourself. Not because it was your fault, but because no one taught you how to separate their rejection from your worth. But I am here now, and I will teach you. This is what I want you to know before anything else. You are not a mistake. I didn't create you by accident. I didn't form you and then regret it. I didn't miscalculate your timing, your wiring, or your voice. Even the parts of you that feel too tender, I designed them with purpose. Even the parts that feel out of place, I placed them there intentionally. You have spent too long asking the wrong question. What's wrong with me? But there is no wound in you that scares me, no flaw in you that disqualifies you. I am not looking at you through the lens of your failure. I am looking at you through the lens of redemption. You are not broken beyond repair. You are buried beneath lies. And I am here now, voice soft but strong, to unearth the truth again. I never called you too much. I never asked you to shrink. That was shame speaking, not me. That was fear masking as wisdom. That was pressure wearing the face of love. But I do not deal in manipulation. I do not demand performance for presence. I only ask this: come close. You don't need to fix yourself to be worthy of being seen. You don't need to prove your holiness to be held. You don't need to understand everything to be embraced. Come with your confusion. Come with your ache. Come even with your doubt. Yes, even that I can hold it. You think I flinch at your questions? No, child. I lean in closer. The wound in your soul has always spoken louder than your words. Even when you pretend everything is fine, I hear the silence screaming beneath your skin. I know the ache that wakes you up at night, the feeling that somehow you are not enough and never will be, but that is not your truth. That is not your name. You are not too much. You are not enough. You are mine. I remember the first time you decided to hide. Not your body, your heart. I saw when you turned your face from the mirror and said, I'll only be lovable when I'm stronger, when I'm smarter, when I'm quieter, when I'm more like them. But I loved you before any of those conditions existed. I called you good before you did a single thing to earn it. I called you beloved before you learned how to perform, and I've never taken it back, let me say it plainly. So the lie begins to lose its grip. You were not born to be tolerated, you were born to be treasured. Yes, I know what they said, and what they didn't say. I know the rooms you walked into and felt invisible. I know the way you shrunk in conversations, unsure if your voice mattered. I know how hard you tried to shapeshift into someone easier to love. But that's not the kind of love I created you for. I didn't form your soul to fit someone else's mold. I formed you to reflect me, and I don't reflect through perfection. I reflect through presence. So if you're weary of pretending, you're in the right place. If you're tired of trying to earn your breath, you're ready for rest. If you're done measuring your worth by how others respond, you're ready for truth. Come sit with me here, in this quiet moment. No noise, no expectations, just this. You are not the lie that buried you. You are the truth I'm uncovering. There is nothing about you that I regret, nothing I would undo. Even the scars, they are sacred now, not because pain is good, but because I am. Because I do not waste wounds, I redeem them. So if the world has made you feel like you're a burden, let me be the voice that tells you, you are a blessing. If you've spent your life wondering if anyone sees you, let me be the eyes that never look away. And if your greatest fear is that you're too complicated to be loved, let me be the one who says, I delight in every piece of you. Not after you get it all together, not after you prove you're strong. Now. Here. This breath. This moment. You were never the mistake. Shame was. And now the undoing begins. My beloved, there's a voice you've grown used to, not because it's gentle, but because it's familiar. It tells you you're too sensitive. It tells you not to make a scene. It tells you to keep the peace, even at the cost of your own. It sounds like caution, but it's really fear. It sounds like humility, but it's really erasure. And for too long, you've believed it. Not because it was true, but because it came wrapped in silence, and silence can feel like truth when no one speaks against it. But I've always been speaking. Even in the quiet places where you thought I had gone missing, I was whispering, not with thunder, not with fire, with stillness. I don't compete for your attention. I wait for your heart, and when you finally lean in, you'll realize I never left. I was always there, beneath the noise, beneath the ache, beneath the voice that told you to be small. You see, this world has a rhythm. It's loud. It's fast. It rewards pretending. But the kingdom I planted in you beats to a different drum. It moves slowly. It walks gently. It honors truth more than performance. You've tried to fit into spaces that didn't deserve you. You've tried to adjust your voice, your presence, your light, just to stay. But I never asked you to beg for belonging. I gave it to you before you knew to ask. Let me remind you again. You don't have to twist into someone else just to be seen. The ones who can only love you when you're easy were never assigned to carry your heart. You were made to be known, not edited. You were created for communion, not control. That whisper you've always heard, that subtle pull in the quiet moments, it was me. The tug that said, you don't have to perform here. The breath that came when you let your guard down just for a second. The feeling that maybe, just maybe, love wasn't supposed to feel like fear. That was me. I know how carefully you've constructed the mask. I know the calculations you make before every word. I know how exhausting it is to carry both your truth and your silence, but I'm not here to criticize your hiding. I'm here to hold the reasons for it. I know what it cost you to become invisible, and I know what it will take to become real again. So let me say it gently. You don't have to disappear to be safe. You don't have to stay agreeable to be accepted. You don't have to smile when it hurts. I didn't make you fragile. I made you tender. I didn't make you loud. I made you bold. I didn't make you anxious. I made you alert. Your design isn't faulty. It's finely tuned for a different rhythm, mine. The world may call your depth too much, but I call it my reflection. You were not meant to skim the surface of life. You were made for deep waters, and I will be your anchor. Even now, I see the flicker in your heart, the one that says, maybe I could stop hiding. Yes, that's the whisper. I'm breathing into flame. That's the beginning of your return. Because here's what I want you to know. Your voice matters, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. Your tears matter, not because they're dramatic, but because they're honest. Your presence matters, not because you earn it, but because I declared it. The lie told you that love must be earned, but I gave it freely. The lie told you that worth must be proven, but I sealed it in you before your first breath. The lie told you to keep quiet, but I created you to speak, to echo what I speak first over you. Beloved, I'm not afraid of your volume. I'm not put off by your silence. I'm not overwhelmed by your sensitivity. I designed you to feel deeply because I feel deeply too. I formed you to respond to pain, not with numbness, but with compassion. I called you not to disappear, but to stand in the places where others shrink back. Do you feel it? That subtle shift, that stirring of courage. It's the voice of shame losing its grip. It's the sound of me calling you back to yourself. You were never meant to walk this earth hiding your light. You were never meant to live apologizing for your presence. So let this be the moment you pause, not to prove anything, just to breathe. And in that breath, hear me again. You're still mine. Even with the hesitation, even with the years of shrinking, even with the questions that don't have tidy answers yet. You don't have to be fully healed to be fully held. You don't have to feel strong to be deeply safe. Come home to me, not to a place, to a person, to presence. That whisper that stayed, that was me, and I'm still here, and I'm not leaving. My beloved, you've spent so much time trying to hold yourself together, you forgot you were allowed to fall apart. But what if I told you that falling apart was never failure? What if I told you that undoing isn't the opposite of healing, but the beginning of it? There are threads in your soul that were stitched in fear, patterns formed not from truth, but from trauma, words spoken in anger that became beliefs, moments of rejection that became vows. I'll never need anyone. I'll always be okay. I'll make sure I'm enough. Those vows protected you once, but they're suffocating you now. I never asked you to build your life on self-sufficiency and silence. I never required you to be invincible. I asked you to be honest, and I can handle your honesty. You've been afraid that if you take your hands off, everything will fall apart. But what if it's not falling apart? What if it's falling into place? You're not unraveling. You're being undone by grace. And grace never destroys. It remakes. So let the old structures crack. Let the false identities loosen. Let the masks slip. Let the tears fall, not because you're failing, but because you're finally safe enough to let go. I am not looking for the version of you who has it all figured out. I'm looking for the one who is willing to be seen. And I see you, right now. Not just the polished parts, the raw ones too, the anxious thoughts, the tired bones, the weary heart. You don't have to hide your humanity to be holy. You don't have to wear strength like a disguise. Weakness was never meant to be your shame. It was meant to be your meeting place with me. Let me meet you there, in the undone, in the unbecoming, in the sacred unraveling that leads to truth. You've built towers to protect yourself. You've climbed ladders that led nowhere. You've chased approval like oxygen. But none of those things can give you peace. Peace doesn't come from proving. It comes from presence. Mine. Yours. Let me teach you the art of surrender, not the kind that gives up, but the kind that gives in, into rest, into trust, into me. You don't need to hold it all together anymore. You need to be held, and I can do that. I've always been doing that, quietly, patiently, faithfully, even when you couldn't see me. Do you remember the moments you thought you broke? You didn't. You bent, and I was the hands beneath you. Even in the moments you called wasted, I was sowing something deep. Even in the silence you feared, I was writing a deeper song. This is what I want to tell you now. Your unraveling is holy. Your undoing is sacred. It's not the end of your story. It's the unwrapping of it. You don't have to rebuild the old way. You can start from rest. You can begin again, not as a project to fix, but as a person being formed in grace, formed in truth, formed in love. You were never meant to carry all this alone. Even your strength is not your source. I am. And I'm not disappointed in your breaking. I'm dwelling in it. This is the invitation. Let go of the scripts. The ones that say you're only lovable when you're useful. The ones that say you can't rest until everyone else is okay. The ones that say your needs are inconvenient. Burn those lies on the altar of truth. And listen, you are not a burden. You are not a problem to solve. You are not an inconvenience. You are a dwelling place, a temple, a bearer of my breath. That breath still speaks. Peace, be still. To your thoughts, to your striving, to your fear. I didn't come to reinforce your coping mechanisms. I came to heal the wounds beneath them, so allow this moment to be sacred, not because it's tidy, but because it's true. You are standing on holy ground, not because everything is fixed, but because I am with you in everything. And I'm not just restoring what was lost, I'm restoring you. Let this be your new beginning, the place where you stop managing your pain and start meeting me in it, the place where strength is redefined, where rest becomes resistance, where gentleness becomes power. You don't have to go back to the version of you that knew how to survive. Let me introduce you to the one who was always meant to live. My beloved, you've gone so long without resting in meth that even stillness now feels like guilt. But stillness was never punishment. It was always invitation. You've confused peace with passivity and rest with laziness because you were taught that value comes through motion, through doing, fixing, achieving, performing. But I never measured your worth in accomplishments. I measured it in presence. And you, just you, have always been enough for me to stay. Do you remember when you used to breathe without bracing? When you laughed without listening for rejection? When you moved without second-guessing your every step? I remember. And I haven't forgotten who you are beneath the survival, even if you have. This is the place where you return, not to a version of yourself that was better, but to the you that was real. I never asked you to climb to me. I came down to you. I walked with dust on my feet, so you'd know I'm not afraid of your earthiness. I wept at tombs so you'd know I'm not removed from your grief. I touched wounds so you'd know I'm not waiting for your healing to begin loving you. I don't meet you where you pretend to be. I meet you where you are, and where you are is sacred to me. You've tried to spiritualize your shame. You've wrapped it in self-denial and called it holiness. But I never asked you to erase yourself to honor me. You were made in my image, not just your spirit, but your mind, your heart, your body, your voice. You carry something of me the world has never seen before and will never see again. You've believed that hiding is humility. But humility isn't shrinking. Humility is living fully alive and knowing it was all my gift. So come back to presence. Not to pressure. Not to duty. To the place where your heart first learned it was safe to beat freely. This is not about going back to some perfect version of your past. This is about returning to the truth that has always been deeper than the pain. You are loved. You are chosen. You are safe. That doesn't mean you won't feel fear. It means fear is no longer your master. Let me be your peace now. Let me be your rhythm. Let me walk with you slowly enough for your soul to keep up. I know how fast you've been running, even when no one saw it. Even when your calendar looked manageable, but your soul was screaming. You've learned to be functional while empty. You've learned to smile through depletion. But you were not created to run on fumes. You were created to abide. Even before the fall, there was rest. Sabbath wasn't an emergency response to sin. It was part of my design. So today, let that truth return to you. Rest is not weakness, it is worship. Not because you've earned a break, but because I made you worthy of love that never depended on your output. This is the place where you return, to my lap, not my ledger, to my arms, not my expectations, to my voice, not the echo of culture's demands. The world keeps telling you to be more. I'm telling you, be mine. When you return to me, you return to yourself. Not the version you edited, not the version they accepted, the one I made, the one I see, the one I've never once abandoned. Even when you wandered, I didn't withdraw. Even when you forgot me, I remembered you. I etched you into my palms. I whispered your name into the night. Come home. Come home, not just to heaven later. Come home to peace now, to identity now, to communion now. This isn't about finishing the race faster. It's about remembering who's walking beside you. I'm not watching from a distance. I'm matching my steps with yours. And I'll keep walking, even when you trip, even when you pause, even when you cry and say, I can't do this anymore. You don't need to do it alone. You never did. So exhale the expectations. Inhale my nearness. Let my presence quiet every voice that says you're behind. You're not behind. You're returning. And return is always sacred. This is not regression. It's realignment. The pace you choose now, slow, intentional, present, is not you falling apart. It's you coming back together, because I dwell in still places, in silent spaces, in unhurried souls who know they are not what they do. You are not what you do. You are not what you fix. You are not what you give away. You are mine. Let that be enough today. Enough to silence the lie. Enough to breathe again. Enough to stay present. And when the noise returns, when the pressures rise again, come back here. To this place, to this voice, to this truth. You're already home. My beloved, you've grown fluent in silence, not the sacred kind, but the kind that binds, that hides, that slowly erodes the soul. You learned early how to quiet yourself to avoid unsettling others. Somewhere, someone made you feel like your honesty was a threat, your pain an inconvenience, your voice too loud or too soft or too complicated to hold. So you swallowed it. You buried your thoughts. You called it strength. But I never called that silence holy. That was survival. And while I honor what you had to do to make it through, I'm here now to show you another way. The silence you were taught to live in was never the same as my peace. My peace doesn't ask you to erase yourself. It doesn't come from disappearing. It comes from being seen fully and staying anyway. You've mistaken silence for wisdom because loud people used words to wound you. But the answer to harm isn't hiding. It's healing, and healing begins when the truth is spoken. So let me speak now into that place where silence became your language, where no one ever asked, what hurts? Where no one ever stayed long enough to listen. Let me say what should have been said. I see you. I hear you. What you feel matters. What you carry is real, and your truth is not too heavy for me. You don't have to rehearse your pain to earn my attention. You don't have to explain your tears before they fall. I understand the language of sorrow. I speak it fluently. You've believed for so long that your presence must be justified, that you needed a reason to speak, that your emotions needed to be trimmed down and made palatable. But I didn't form you to be digestible. I formed you to be alive. Yes, your voice has shaken. Yes, your truth has been ignored, but that doesn't make it less sacred. You've been told to calm down when what you needed was comfort. You've been told to be grateful when what you needed was validation. But I will not tone police your pain. I will not rush your story to make others more comfortable. This is what I want to give you today: permission to speak, to weep, to wonder, to remember, to be. You're allowed to tell the truth of what hurt you, not so you stay in the past, but so the past no longer gets to silence your present. You can say what was never said. You can name what was hidden. You can bring what's buried into the light. I am not shocked by your story. I've walked with you through every sentence, even the chapters you thought were too messy, too painful, too fractured to share. I was there in the betrayal. I was there in the abandonment. I was there when you cried into your pillow, not knowing how to pray, only knowing how to ache. And I didn't look away. So let me say it again, louder than the silence. You matter. You're not too much. You're not invisible. You don't need to become smaller to be accepted. You don't need to earn your seat at the table I've already prepared for you. You've learned how to nod politely while shrinking internally. You've learned how to agree just to be safe. But I'm not calling you to safety that costs your soul. I'm calling you to wholeness, and wholeness requires voice, so open your mouth. Let your soul speak, even if it trembles, even if it breaks, even if you don't yet have the words, just the groan. I hear that too. This is how healing begins. Not with clarity, but with courage. You don't have to wait until it sounds beautiful. You don't have to wait until it makes sense. Bring me the raw, the real, the honest fragments. I will shape them into a song, and your voice, your true voice, the one you buried beneath years of silence, will rise again, not to shout, not to prove, but to reveal beauty where others only saw brokenness, to reveal tenderness where the world demanded toughness, to reveal me, the one who speaks through the ones who were told to be quiet. You don't have to shout to be heard in my kingdom. You don't have to compete for attention. You only need to be present. I draw near to the broken-hearted, not the polished, not the perfect, the present. So here, in this moment, I give you permission to unlearn what silence taught you. You were never meant to disappear. You were never meant to suppress your story to keep the peace. You are not a disruption. You are a declaration. Truth can live here again. And when you speak, the lie breaks. When you name what hurt, shame loses its grip. When you share, healing begins not just for you, but for others still wondering if they're allowed to exist too. Yes, your voice will be a balm. Yes, your story will be a seed. Yes, your honesty will be a door someone else didn't know could open. This is why I'm restoring your voice, not just so you can be heard, but so others will hear me in you, because I still speak through the humble. I still dwell with the honest. I still anoint the ones the world overlooked, and you, yes, you are one of them, my beloved. You've carried so much for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to walk light. You brace yourself before you rise. You hold your breath without realizing. You wait for the next thing to go wrong, as if goodness is a momentary accident and pain is the permanent pattern. But I never asked you to live this way. Not on edge, not in fear, not beneath a weight you were never built to bear. You've learned to endure, to press through, to function with fractures. But endurance was never meant to replace intimacy. You weren't created just to survive. You were created to abide. Even when your body keeps moving, I see how your soul is tired. Not just tired in the way a nap could fix. Tired in the way that comes from holding everything in, being everything for everyone, never letting anything drop because you believed it all depended on you. Let me say what no one else has said. It doesn't. The world may have convinced you that your value is measured by what you can carry, but I measure it by who carries you. You've said, "I'm fine," and I've heard the exhaustion beneath it. You've said, "It's okay," and I've seen the tears you pushed behind your smile. You've said, "I can handle it," and I've watched the weight press into your shoulders until you forgot they were ever made for rest. So come here now. Let the armor fall. Take off the burden of pretending. You're not my servant first. You're my child. Yes, I've called you. Yes, I've anointed you. But I never asked you to trade your humanity for ministry. I never asked you to carry other people's peace at the cost of your own. I never asked you to become exhausted to prove your worth. The pressure you feel, to be okay, to fix it all, to hold it all together, it didn't originate in me. That's the voice of expectation, not grace. That's the demand of culture, not kingdom. Grace says, "You're allowed to stop." Grace says, "You can't save everyone." Grace says, "Let me carry what's breaking you." You're not selfish for resting. You're not lazy for needing space. You're not weak for reaching your limits. You are human, and I blessed that before you took your first breath. Even in Eden, before sin entered the world, there was rest. Before there was striving, there was Sabbath. Before you were a worker, you were a walker with me, in the cool of the day, unrushed, unashamed, unburdened. That is the rhythm I'm calling you back to. Not the rhythm of hustle, the rhythm of belovedness. You do not need to accomplish something to deserve my nearness. You already have it. I'm not waiting for your next achievement to extend my approval. I already said, "You are mine." So what if today, instead of pushing through, you paused? What if you allowed yourself to breathe without earning it? What if rest became your resistance to a world that demands your constant productivity? I didn't come to use you. I came to be with you. And if that sentence unsettles something in you, if part of you still feels like you must do to be loved, then it's time to lay that belief down. That's not faith. That's fatigue in disguise. And I did not call you to a life of empty fire. I called you to flame, but one that's fueled by my spirit, not your own striving. Even Elijah, yes, my prophet, the one who called down fire, even he laid under a tree and said, "I can't." And I didn't rebuke him. I fed him. I let him rest. I sent an angel not with a task, but with bread, because even prophets need recovery. Even the strong need soft places. And you, my child, are no different. Let me be your soft place, not your supervisor, your shepherd. I'm not asking you to prove your faith with exhaustion. I'm asking you to receive my love with openness, to walk away from the yoke that burns and walk into the one that fits. You've carried so much that wasn't yours to begin with. So let me ask you, gently, tenderly, what can you release today, the I? Fear of disappointing them? The pressure to say yes when you're depleted? The shame that whispers you're only valuable when you produce? Place it in my hands. My hands that hold galaxies can hold your weariness too. You don't need to die on every hill. You don't need to keep holding what's holding you back. Come, let me restore your soul, not just in concept, but in rhythm, in your calendar, in your breathing, in your decisions. Let rest become your act of faith. Let slowing down become your declaration that I am still God, even when you stop. This is the truth I'm planting deep now. You are not carrying me. I am carrying you, and I never grow weary. My beloved, you've spent so much of your life adjusting, softening your edges, toning yourself down, shaping yourself to fit in rooms that were never built with your heart in mind. And every time you changed shape to belong, you told yourself it was wisdom, that it was love, that it was maturity. But it was grief in disguise. Grief over the fact that the real you wasn't welcomed, wasn't celebrated, wasn't safe. So you became smaller. You made your voice gentler, not because it felt true, but because it felt necessary. You edited your emotions, your honesty, your hunger to be known, all for the sake of staying connected. But what you sacrificed was yourself. Let me say something now that cuts through the noise. I never asked you to disappear. I never asked you to twist who you are to be palatable to people who could not see the masterpiece I made. I created you, fully you, with colors, contradictions, fire, softness and beauty, with tears that flow easily, with thoughts that run deep, with longings that won't settle for shallow. I did not form you for imitation. I formed you for reflection of me. And I'm not bland. I'm not restrained. I'm not afraid of fullness. So why should you be? Yes, your sensitivity is a gift. Yes, your joy is sacred. Yes, your passion is purposeful. I see the way you second-guess yourself even in the presence of my peace. As if somehow you still have to earn it. But peace isn't a reward for the well-behaved. Peace is your inheritance as mine. You're allowed to take up space. Not because you're perfect, but because I placed you here. You're allowed to be bold. Not because you've never failed, but because I've called you. You're allowed to feel deeply, to speak freely, to live fully, not as a privilege you must earn, but as a right you were born into as my child. I know the moments that made you question this. I know the laughter that fell flat in a room that misunderstood you. I know the confession that was met with judgment, the vulnerability that wasn't protected. I know the betrayal. I know the abandonment. I know the deep ache that says I'm too much for them. But I am not them. I've never once said you were too much. Not your laughter, not your dreams, not your anger at injustice, not your craving to be known. Those weren't flaws, they were flames, evidence of my spirit alive in you. You were not made to blend in. You were made to shine in the particular way I designed you. This is the freedom I'm restoring, the freedom to be fully you, without apology, not the version you thought they wanted, not the version that won you approval. The true version, the one I dreamed of before time began, the one I formed in the hidden place, the one who still hears my whisper when all the noise falls away. This is the season of unveiling, not reinventing, remembering, not reshaping, revealing. You're not starting over. You're returning to the voice you silenced, to the dreams you shelved, to the radiance you tried to cover. No more shrinking, no more adjusting your soul to survive, no more hiding your heart under the armor of politeness. You don't have to be agreeable to be good. You don't have to be quiet to be loved. You don't have to be flawless to be chosen. You already are. Let this be the day you stop asking for permission to be the person I already called good. Let this be the moment you give yourself back to me, wholly, completely, freely, not so I can fix you, but so I can bless you as you are. The world taught you to earn love. I teach you to receive it. The world told you to be impressive. I say, be real. Because when you're real, you make space for others to be too. Your authenticity becomes a sanctuary. Your voice becomes a balm. Your presence becomes light. This is why I set you free, not just for yourself, but so that others would find freedom through your courage. So go ahead, take up space, in the room, in the conversation, in your own life. Not because you're entitled, but because you are mine, and I placed you here on purpose, for purpose, with purpose. Welcome home, beloved, to your voice, to your place, to your freedom. My beloved, let's talk about those moments you try not to name, when everything inside you says, I'm too broken to be loved. You don't speak it aloud, but I see how it shapes the way you move. The way you step back when others step forward. The way you hide your tears before they can be seen. The way you interpret silence as rejection. You've been carrying this unspoken question. Would they still love me if they really knew? So you filter, you polish, you overcompensate, you try to become a version of yourself that feels safe to show. But I know the version you hide, and I don't flinch. the parts of you that feel too complicated, too emotional, too unsure. I see them, and I stay. You don't need to be easy to be loved. You don't need to be fixed to be held. You don't need to be confident to be carried. Love doesn't leave when you doubt. Love draws closer. That's what my love does. It enters the messy rooms. It walks into the corners you've barricaded. It finds you in the middle of your guilt and says, I still want you. You've believed that worth must be maintained, like something fragile, always one misstep away from being lost. But worth given by me is unshakable, not based on behavior, not dependent on how good the day has been, not revoked when you fall back into old patterns. I loved you yesterday. I love you now. I will love you tomorrow. Nothing you do can cancel that. When you can't hold on to me, I hold on to you. When your faith trembles, my grip doesn't loosen. Do you remember Peter? When the waves overwhelmed him, he cried out, and I didn't hesitate. I reached. Not after he stood, while he was still sinking, and I'm still reaching now. You don't have to rise to be rescued. You just have to receive. This is the kind of love I give. Not the kind that waits for your healing, but the kind that walks with you through it. You've been taught that closeness requires perfection. That holiness is about getting everything right. But I say this to you gently. Holiness is being fully known and still fully loved. It's knowing that even in your weakest hour, you're still mine. I don't wait at the finish line. I walk beside you every step, even when your hands are clenched with fear, even when your thoughts are tangled, even when you don't know how to pray. Even when your first instinct is to withdraw, I stay, and I keep staying. Let that truth challenge the lie that you have to perform your way into love. The deepest transformation doesn't begin with striving. It begins with being seen and not rejected. You are not a disappointment I'm trying to manage. You're a miracle I'm redeeming, even in your confusion, even in your wandering, even in your frustration with yourself. When you pull away from everyone else, I lean in, because I'm not like the ones who left. I don't walk out when things get heavy. I don't withdraw when your hope gets dim. I don't grow cold when you forget your worth. When you stop answering messages, when you cancel plans, when you lay in bed wondering if anything will ever change, I come close. Not with shame, but with presence. I sit with you in the silence. I speak peace over your overthinking. I wrap you in a love that says, you never had to be flawless to be chosen. Let that sink deeper. Let it interrupt the cycle. Let it start the slow unraveling of every false belief that said you were only as lovable as your progress. You are not your progress. You are my child. Your identity was never supposed to be built on your performance. It was meant to rest in your belonging. And you do belong. Even on the days you feel like a failure. Even when your inner critic is loud. Even when you're not proud of your reaction, even when all you did was survive the day, my love doesn't decrease when your confidence does. So today, if all you can do is whisper, I don't feel worthy, let me be the one who whispers back, but I say you are. And my word is final, not your shame, not your doubt, not your past, only my word defines you. You are not barely tolerated, you are deeply delighted in. You don't have to try harder to deserve what is already yours. You don't have to fix yourself to be welcome in my arms. The love you keep trying to earn has been chasing you all along. Stop running, stop proving, stop apologizing for needing me. I already came, and I still come. Every moment, every breath, every breakdown. My love doesn't grow weary, it holds, it heals. It stays, and I'm still here, child, not disappointed, not tired of you, just waiting for you to believe again that I never left. My beloved, let's talk about the walls, the ones you don't mention, but carry everywhere, the ones you've built slowly stone by stone with every betrayal, every dismissal, every time you let someone in and they didn't stay. I know why you built them. You thought they would keep you safe, and for a time, they did. They gave you space to breathe. They kept the harm out. They helped you make it through. But now, they're also keeping love out. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because protection without presence eventually becomes prison. You didn't mean to become distant. You didn't mean to push people away. You didn't mean to hide behind a smile that says, "I'm fine," when your soul is unraveling. But self-protection became second nature. It became your reflex, your safety net, your language of survival. I understand. I don't judge you for it. I was with you when those walls first started rising. I saw the moments that taught you. It's not safe to be open. But I'm here now to show you something better. You don't have to keep guarding yourself from a world I already overcame. You don't have to live hidden behind strategies of self-defense. You can be seen, you can be loved, you can be safe, even uncovered. Because true safety doesn't come from walls, it comes from me. I am your refuge. I am your defender. I am your hiding place, not from love, but inside it. You've believed the lie that said, if I open up, I'll be hurt again. And I won't pretend that vulnerability is painless, but neither is isolation. The ache you carry, that dull heaviness you can't name, it's loneliness. Not because you're alone physically, but because you've stopped letting others see the real you. And sometimes you've even hidden from yourself. You say, I don't need anyone, but I see the longing underneath, the ache for connection that doesn't require performance, the desire to be held without having to explain. Let me start there. You don't have to open up to everyone, but open to me. Tell me what you buried. Tell me what still stings. Tell me what you're afraid will happen if you let your guard down. I can hold it all. I'm not threatened by your fears. I'm not wearied by your defenses. I'm not disappointed that it's taking time. I know how long you've lived behind the walls, and I know how to dismantle them with kindness. I don't come with a hammer. I come with healing. Brick by brick, layer by layer, lie by lie, I will help you tear them down. Not all at once, but in rhythm, in trust, in safety, and in their place I will build something stronger. Belonging, not forced closeness, not superficial connection, but true, grounded, soul-deep communion, first with me, then slowly with others. I know trust feels risky. I know love has let you down before, but I'm not like them. I don't leave when it gets hard. I don't withhold affection until you get it right. I don't need you to be easy to be worth it. I loved you when your heart was guarded. I love you now, while it's learning how to open again. This is the holy invitation I'm offering. You don't have to hide anymore, not behind perfection, not behind humor, not behind competence, not behind service, not even behind spiritual language. I want you, not the filtered version, not the polished response, not the curated life, you. Because that's who I died for, that's who I rose for, that's who I stay with. So here now, let's begin again. Let me teach you how to live unguarded, not unwise, but unburdened. You don't have to constantly scan for rejection. You don't have to overthink every word. You don't have to rehearse your worth. You already have it. You're not too broken to belong. You're not too messy to be known. You're not too far gone to be restored. You're right on time, and I'm right here, knocking gently on the inside of the wall. Will you let me in, my beloved? You've been holding your breath, not just in your lungs, but in your soul, holding it through the conversations where you didn't feel safe, holding it through the days you weren't sure you'd make it through, holding it through the years you felt like you were fading, and you've gotten so used to it, you barely notice anymore. But I notice the tension in your shoulders, the way your chest tightens before you speak, the way your body braces as if love is something that might explode at any second. I never meant for you to live like that. I created you to breathe not just oxygen, but peace, truth, presence, me. I am not the pressure that exhausts you. I am the breath that revives you, and I'm breathing into you again now, not with force, but with tenderness, the way I did in the beginning, when I bent close to dust and called it alive. You've been trying to come back to life on your own, trying to motivate yourself, trying to discipline yourself into wholeness, trying to gather what's shattered and make it look beautiful again. But I didn't ask you to resuscitate yourself. I came to do that for you, because resurrection is not your job. It's your inheritance. Yes, there are still tombs in your soul, places where hope was buried, places where disappointment settled like stone, places where you've stopped expecting anything good because too many times it didn't come. But let me remind you, I do my best work in graves. I don't walk away from death. I speak into it. I don't avoid the dark. I enter it. I don't panic when it looks like all is lost, because I know how to bring life back from nothing, and that's what I'm doing in you now. Not repairing, not just improving, resurrecting. There are parts of you that you've labeled dead and gone, parts you buried quietly, your laughter, your trust, your sense of wonder, your belief that you could ever truly be loved without condition. But I still see the seed beneath the soil, and I'm calling it up now because nothing is too buried for me. You thought you had to wait until you felt strong again, until the pain passed, until your mind was clear and your hands steady. But beloved, resurrection doesn't wait for readiness. It arrives with power, even in the trembling, even in the doubt, even when you still smell like the grave clothes you've worn for years. Remember Lazarus? I didn't wait until he could walk out. I called his name first, and I'm calling yours now. Come forth from shame, come forth from hiding, come forth from numbness, come forth from fear, not by your own strength, but by my Spirit. The same Spirit that raised me from the dead is breathing in you now, not just to help you function, to help you live, really live, not just as someone who performs faith, but someone who walks in freedom. You've thought for so long that healing would look like getting back to who you used to be, but I'm not taking you backward, I'm taking you deeper. Deeper into identity, deeper into union, deeper into breath. You will learn to breathe again, not in panic, in peace. You will wake up and not dread the day. You will speak and not second-guess your voice. You will feel again, yes, even that, without being consumed. Because I am the breath that brings you back. You don't have to climb your way to me. You only have to open your chest, open your soul, open the places that went silent when you were too tired to hope, and I will fill them with mercy, with meaning, with myself. Let this be your new rhythm. Inhale my truth. Exhale the lie. Inhale rest. Exhale pressure. Inhale love. Exhale fear. Let your breath become prayer. Let your rest become worship. Let your honesty become home. You were never meant to live disconnected from your own soul. You were never meant to survive without oxygen, and I am your breath. So come, let me bring you back, not just from exhaustion, but into joy, not just from surviving, but into wholeness, not just from the edge of things, but into the center of my heart. Because you've been dead long enough, and the grave has no final say. This is the sound of resurrection. This is the rhythm of life. This is the breath that holds you now and always. My beloved, you've been looking for solid ground, someplace where your soul can finally rest, where you don't have to scan for threat or brace for rejection or over-explain just to feel understood. And I want to tell you something you've longed to hear. You're already standing on holy ground, because I'm here. You don't have to wait for the storm to pass before you feel safe. You don't have to wait for your thoughts to quiet before you call this moment sacred. You don't have to wait to be steady when my presence is already your anchor. I know how it's felt lately. The instability, the inner trembling, the moments where you wonder, am I slipping again? You fear going backward. You fear falling apart. You fear losing the ground you've worked so hard to gain. But beloved, I am not the ground you built. I am the ground beneath it, and I do not shift, even when your feelings do, even when your faith flickers, even when the voices of your past grow loud again. I am still here, and I am still for you. Let me remind you what steadiness truly means. It doesn't mean you're never shaken. It means you stay standing, because something deeper than fear holds you. That something is me. I am the presence that doesn't pull away when things get hard. I'm not the voice that grows cold when you feel lost. I don't withdraw when your heart is messy. I stay, not because you earned it, because I promised. And I don't break promises. You've tried to earn stability by managing everything around you, by fixing, by controlling, by making everyone comfortable so they won't leave. But what if steadiness didn't come from control, but from communion, from learning how to live with me, not just for me? You've chased so many things, thinking they'd calm the ache: approval, structure, answers, validation. But I'm offering something more enduring: presence. My presence, the kind that isn't dependent on mood, the kind that doesn't vanish when your day doesn't go well, the kind that doesn't hinge on how well you perform your faith. I don't come and go. I don't visit. You're my dwelling, and you don't have to strain to access me. You don't have to climb a ladder of spiritual effort. You just have to pause and remember, I'm already here, with you in the ordinary, with you in the mundane, with you when you're too tired to feel anything. Let me be the stillness you've been craving, not the stillness of absence, but the stillness of security. Like a child resting in their parents' arms, not because the world stopped, but because the arms are strong enough to hold it. That's what I'm offering you. I'm not asking you to deny your emotions. I'm inviting you to bring them into my presence, not to be silenced, but to be stilled, not through effort, but through nearness. Come as you are, tired, hopeful, restless, unsure. There's no version of you I love more than this one. You feared being too much. You feared being not enough. But in me, there's no such scale. I am not measuring you. I'm holding you. This is your place now. Not on the edge. Not in the performance. Not behind the mask, but here, fully known, fully seen, fully safe. This is what steadiness feels like. Peace that doesn't depend on clarity. Hope that doesn't depend on outcome. Love that isn't tied to your success. Just me and you. And a quiet stillness where striving ceases and trust begins. So breathe, child. Not as a command, but as a gift. Let the wind of my spirit be enough for you today. Not because you've figured everything out, but because you've come close enough to know. You were never meant to walk alone. You were meant to be carried. You were meant to be kept. You were meant to abide. This is the rhythm I'm restoring, one where you stay with me. Not just when things are good, but when they are unknown. And even then, you will not be shaken, because I am not the God who waits on the other side of your breakthrough. I'm the one who kneels beside you in the middle of it, whispering, you're not falling apart, you're being held. And you are, right now, right here, steady, in me. My beloved, you've spent so long in winter, not just the kind outside, but the kind inside. The cold, quiet season of waiting where everything looks bare and life feels paused and hope seems like a memory instead of a promise. I know what that season cost you. I saw how you kept going even when everything in you wanted to give up. I saw how you showed up while your roots were trembling beneath the surface. I saw how you carried faith not in fireworks, but in silent, stubborn staying. And I want you to know that staying mattered. You didn't waste the winter. You grew in it. Even when nothing seemed to bloom, your roots went deeper. Your trust grew stronger. Your resilience was shaped not in your loudest victory, but in your quiet survival. You thought that silence meant absence. But I was never more near than when you were still. I was in the soil with you, watering what you couldn't see, breathing life into places you thought had died. And now the thaw has begun, not all at once, but gently, like morning light. You've felt it, haven't you? That subtle stirring in your soul, that soft ache for more, that flicker of desire to laugh again, to risk again, to dream again. That's not random. That's resurrection. The bloom you thought would never come is rising. It doesn't look like you imagined. It's quieter, truer, more tender. It's not about grand success or sudden change. It's about becoming, slow, sacred, steady, like petals unfolding one layer at a time. No rush, no pressure, just permission. Permission to feel again, to breathe again, to try again, without the fear of failure defining you. You are not late. You are not behind. You are right on time for the season I have ordained. And this season, it's not just about healing. It's about becoming. You're becoming the version of you that you thought was too good to be true. The one you buried, the one you doubted, the one who carries light and laughter and depth and divine image, the one who doesn't need permission to bloom, but blooms because she is. There is no shame in your slowness. There is no guilt in your unfolding. There is no comparison in my garden. I do not measure your growth against anyone else's timeline. I planted you. I know your process, and I call it beautiful. Others may not see it yet. Some may only notice once the flowers show, but I've been celebrating since the first crack of light reached your roots, because I saw the courage it took to hold on in the frost. I saw the nights you cried and still got up. I saw the mornings you doubted and still said yes. And that kind of faith, the faith to keep breathing, that is what moves mountains. Now, beloved, let me give you this joy, not forced joy, not performative joy, but the kind that rises unexpectedly from places long thought barren. The joy that bubbles when you realize you made it through the season you were sure would break you. You didn't just survive it, you were remade in it. So let joy come. Let it come through your laughter. Let it come through your tears. Let it come through your softness, your rest, your freedom. Let it be your testimony. Not that you never hurt, but that you didn't let the pain have the final word. Let it be the sound your soul makes when it finally believes, I was always meant to bloom. Because you were. I didn't plant you to stay hidden. I didn't bury you to abandon you. I allowed the season of waiting so I could draw something deeper out of you. Not punishment, but preparation. And now it's time to stretch toward light, to lean into beauty, to stop apologizing for the miracle you are. Let the blooming begin. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You're no longer trying to prove you belong. You know now. You always did. You're no longer trying to earn rest. You understand. It was always your inheritance. You're no longer surviving from moment to moment. You're living, truly living, and that is what I call glory. Not the spotlight, not the stage, but the quiet, holy unfolding of a heart that finally knows I was not forgotten. I was growing, and now I am blooming. My beloved, you've spent so long dimming your light to make others comfortable. You learned how to shrink, how to soften your glow, how to step back just far enough to avoid being misunderstood. Somewhere along the way, you decided that safety meant invisibility. That love meant being less. That acceptance meant always adjusting. But you were never made to disappear. You were made to shine. Not with a harsh, blinding spotlight, but with a steady, holy radiance that comes from within. From me. I placed my light inside you. And nothing, no voice, no failure, no rejection has ever been able to extinguish it. Yes, you've forgotten. Yes, you've doubted. Yes, you've been told that your softness is weakness and your passion is too much. But those weren't my words. Those were shadows. And you don't belong to the shadows anymore. You belong to light, because you were born of it, because you carry it, because you are it. You see, when I breathed my spirit into you, I didn't give you a flicker. I gave you flame. A light meant not only to warm others, but to illuminate your own path. But you've grown afraid of it, afraid of what it might attract, afraid of what it might cost, afraid of what people might expect from someone who dares to shine. So you've been hiding, calling it humility, calling it wisdom, calling it timing. But it's time to stop hiding, not because you need to prove anything, not because the world needs another performance, but because hiding has turned into self-betrayal, and I'm calling you back to yourself. You don't need to be loud to be radiant. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You don't need to be certain to be faithful. You only need to be true to me, to who I created you to be, to the voice I planted inside you before you had words. Do you feel it now? That flicker in your chest? That warmth rising in the places that were cold? That isn't ego. That isn't pride. That's your light remembering it still exists. You've tried to silence it to fit in. You've tried to cover it for approval. But I never told you to blend in. I told you to reflect me. And I am not muted. I am not passive. I am not hiding. So why should you? The world may not understand your light. Some may resent it. Some may try to extinguish it because they haven't yet found their own. But you're not responsible for how others respond to what I've placed in you. You're only responsible to let it burn true. Let it burn in your honesty. Let it burn in your kindness. Let it burn in your tears, your truth, your presence. Because when you show up fully, not arrogantly but authentically, darkness loses ground. Your presence shifts atmospheres, not because of what you do, but because of who you carry. You carry me, and I'm not a fragile flame. I'm the consuming fire that purifies, the pillar of light that guides, the spark that turns ashes into beauty again. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop apologizing for the radiance I gave you. This isn't about spotlight. This is about alignment, living in such a way that who you are on the inside matches what the world sees on the outside. Not for applause, for freedom. You don't owe anyone a dimmed-down version of yourself. You don't have to perform safety to belong. You don't have to explain why you shine. You just do. It's who you are. So rise. Rise without apology. Rise without fear. Rise without needing everyone to understand. And when they ask you where the glow comes from, tell them, it's not mine, it's his, and it's always been in me, because it has, and now it's time to shine again. My beloved, you've waited long enough at the edge. You've stood at the threshold, feeling the pull to move forward and the fear that says, what if I'm not ready? But readiness isn't the requirement, willingness is, and you are willing, even if your voice trembles. You've wrestled with doubt. You've asked if you're enough. You've looked around and seen others who seem more qualified, more confident, more composed. But I didn't choose them for your walk. I chose you. And I didn't choose you because you were the strongest, the loudest, or the most certain. I chose you because your heart still beats toward me, even in the wilderness, even in the delay, even in the doubt. You've disqualified yourself so many times. You've said, I'm too broken, I'm too late, I'm too unsure, but I don't speak in too much or not enough. I speak in yes and amen, and my yes over you still stands. You were made to move, not just out of pain, but into purpose, not just out of fear, but into freedom. You don't need a full roadmap. You need one step, one act of courage, one decision to walk by faith instead of waiting for clarity to come. Because sometimes clarity only arrives after obedience. You've asked me, what if I fail? And I'm asking you, what if you fly? What if the walk you're afraid to take is the very one that awakens life in others? What if your obedience breaks generational shame? What if your story unlocks healing in someone else's? You keep waiting for certainty, but I move in trust. So step out, not with all the answers, but with an anchored soul. You don't need to be fearless to move forward. You just need to know who goes with you, and I do. I go ahead of you to prepare the path. I go behind you to guard what you've left. I walk beside you, so you're never alone. And I dwell within you, so you're never without power. This walk isn't about proving anything. It's about releasing what I've already placed in you. The words, the healing, the wisdom, the story. Yes, your story, even the parts you've tried to hide. Because I don't just use your victories, I use your valleys. I don't just shine through your strength, I shine through your scars. The walk you're being called into doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. Your presence, with all your nuance, with all your depth, with all the glory I wrapped inside you when I called you mine, and beloved, I am calling. Not with a voice of pressure, but with a voice of purpose. Can you hear it? Not a demand, but a gentle invitation. Come, walk with me. Not run, not strive, not perform, just walk, one step at a time, one conversation at a time, one brave moment at a time. Let me pace you, let me strengthen you, let me remind you that it's not the speed that matters, it's the faithfulness, even when it's slow, even when it's quiet, even when no one else sees it, heaven sees. And every step you take in obedience echoes in eternity. So rise today, not with burden, but with boldness, not with pressure, but with peace, not with a heavy yoke, but with my yoke, easy, light, joyful. You are not walking to earn your place. You're walking because you already have one. You are not walking to be noticed. You're walking because you are sent. And every time you choose to show up with truth in your voice and grace in your steps, darkness loses ground. This is what you were made for, to carry light, to walk free, to go with me into the places that need healing. So don't hold back anymore. Don't wait until you feel brave. The walk itself will make you brave, because you are not walking alone. You're walking with me. And together, we are writing a story that cannot be shaken. My beloved, you've answered to many names. Some were given in love, some were given in pain, some you whispered to yourself in the dark when no one else was listening. Names like unworthy, too much, never enough, invisible. Second choice, mistake. You didn't ask for those names, but they clung to you like dust, subtle, suffocating, familiar. And somewhere along the way, you started responding to them, living by them, wearing them like armor you never wanted but thought you needed to survive. But I never called you by those names, not once, even when you believed them, even when you wore them, even when you let them shape your life. I kept whispering your true name, the one I spoke over you before anyone else ever had the chance to define you. I called you beloved, chosen mine. I called you radiant, restored, a dwelling place for my glory. I called you light bringer, peace carrier, healer, hope bearer. I called you daughter. I called you son. I called you image bearer. I called you good. Not because of what you did, because of what I did. When I formed you in the secret place, when I shaped your voice, your gifting, your laugh, when I etched eternity into your very being. You don't need to search for your worth. You are made of it. The world named you based on performance. I named you based on origin, and your origin is me. You've asked, who am I really? And I've answered, again and again. But the noise was louder. The shame was stronger. The fear was more familiar. So let me say it again, clearly, gently, finally. You are not your trauma. You are not your failure. You are not the one who was left behind. You are not the one who missed the mark. You are the one I never gave up on. You are the one I pursued through every detour. You are the one I wept over, waited for, delighted in. You are the one I love. Still, the name I call you by isn't shaken by your weakest day. It isn't erased by your darkest hour. It isn't threatened by your questions. It holds because I hold it, and I hold you. I'm not asking you to try to become worthy of this name. I'm asking you to believe it's already yours. Let it rewrite the old scripts. Let it rewire the way you see yourself. Let it interrupt the internal monologue that says you always have to earn your place. You don't. You have a place. You are a place, a home for my spirit, a vessel of my love, a representation of my heart. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. You are not too broken to carry beauty again. Let me be the one who reintroduces you to yourself. You've believed in me. Now believe me when I say you are who I say you are. You are not defined by how they mishandled you. You are not confined by the season that almost destroyed you. You are not reduced to your survival tactics. You are being restored to your original design. You are not a backup plan. You are not a second thought. You are not if only or almost. You are called. You are chosen. You are commissioned. And from this day forward, I invite you to walk in the name I gave you. Walk like someone who belongs. Speak like someone who knows they're heard. Stand like someone who doesn't have to shrink anymore. Let the name I call you by become the way you live. Let it echo in your choices. Let it guide your boundaries. Let it steady your steps. Let it silence every lie. Because the truest thing about you is not what you've done. It's not what you feel. It's not even what you fear. It's what I've spoken over you, and I do not lie. So rise, beloved, not to prove, not to perform, but to respond. You've been named, you've been claimed, and now you've been sent. Walk in it. My beloved, you've journeyed long, you've wept in silence, you've healed in secret, you've wrestled with your own becoming in the quiet spaces no one else saw. But I saw. I stayed, and I never stopped shaping you, not just for survival, not just for healing, but for sending. You see, I never meant for you to stay hidden forever. Yes, I brought you into shelter. Yes, I held you while the storm passed. Yes, I whispered your name until you remembered who you are. But now I'm placing your feet on new ground, not the kind where you prove yourself, not the kind where you strive for worth. This ground has already been given. This place has already been prepared. You're not stepping into a battlefield to fight for love. You're stepping into territory already won. You're moving not from lack but from overflow. What once felt like weakness, I've turned into wisdom. What once felt like delay, I've used for deepening. What once felt like loss has become the very soil where resurrection bloomed. And now, beloved, you carry me, not as theory, not as theology, but as breath, as presence, as power clothed in humility. You are not going out to be impressive. You are going out to be true. True to the voice I've refined in the fire. True to the light I've rekindled in the dark. True to the name I've etched in your spirit, beneath every scar, beneath every mask, beneath every memory. You don't have to be loud to be effective. You don't have to be certain to be sent. You don't have to be perfect to carry glory. You only have to be present. And you are. I'm sending you as you are, tender, tested, trusting. You've been equipped in ways you don't fully realize. The empathy you carry, that's oil. The gentleness you thought was weakness, that's fire wrapped in grace. The discernment that made you feel too sensitive, that's divine strategy. Nothing was wasted. I do not recycle pain, I redeem it. Now you will walk into space, not to prove your calling, but to reveal my heart. You'll speak words that make others remember they are still worthy of love. You'll carry stillness that interrupts atmospheres of striving. You'll look people in the eye and they'll see what they thought was gone in themselves. Hope. Not because you're trying to be light, but because you've allowed me to light you. There will be moments ahead that try to make you question all of this. Moments when insecurity knocks again, when old patterns tempt you to shrink again, when the world's noise tries to drown out my whisper. But you know what to do now. You know how to pause. You know how to breathe. You know how to return. Because I am with you still. Not behind you, not just in your memories, but ahead of you. Clearing paths, opening doors, placing people in your journey who will remind you of who you are when you forget. And yes, there will still be questions, but there will also be wonder. Yes, there will still be resistance. But there will also be fruit. You are not sent to force change. You are sent to carry presence. You are not sent to impress crowds. You are sent to restore hearts. You are not sent to save anyone, only to point to the one who already has. And that's enough. You're enough. Because I go with you. I go in you. And I go through you. Let the world see you, not because you're trying to be seen, but because hiding is no longer holy for you. Let the ones still buried in shame see what it looks like to live free. Let the quiet strength I've placed in you become the testimony of my grace. You are not what happened to you. You are what I have declared over you. You are sent. You are sealed. You are mine. So walk out now, not in fear, but in faith, not in pressure, but in peace. Not to earn anything, but because you finally received everything. This is your sending, and it doesn't begin with a platform, it begins with a step. So take it, and know that every step from here on is carried by grace, surrounded by mercy, rooted in love, and covered in my presence. You are no longer wandering. You are walking on purpose with purpose for my glory. Go now and shine.